Hi guys, Artiar here. So for this video is the R0 tier list, the RESO 0 tier list for 3.4.19. So the previous one that I made is at 3.4.13, which is 6 patch earlier, and it's already 4 to 5 months ago. So saw some player asking for a new R0 tier list, so here it is. So this tier list here is the continued version of the previous one. So if you want the more detailed explanation of every single Asper, like why are they at this tier, you can watch back the previous video first before watching this one. Okay, but there's a few adjustments I would like to adjust before I start the video, because this tier list here, the R0 tier list, is more towards to early to mid game. Not until like end game, like you have a lot of different Asper, you're already chasing for RESO. Not that kind of situation. This situation is more about like your story stages. Can it help you clear it? Can it help you clear your story stage? Can it help you clear your ritual miracle? Can it help you clear your tower content, all those stuff? Like if that Asper requires R2 to make it very strong in his specific content, then I won't put it at that tier. Then meta defining is able to play through PvP and PvE both situation, and it's very strong in their own content. Top picks is one tier lower than them with they're at R0. Then for useful, niche is like certain situation. For example, if you need a lot of very consistent dispel, tricky is here for you to dispel. If you really need a very consistent healing, then Ahmed is for you to heal, something like that. Then rarely use here is for your early to mid game, you're gonna rarely use them in their content. And then don't bother here is, if you get them, don't even bothering leveling them up, because at early stage they are not going to benefit you anything. Okay, so the first adjustment I would like to do is Elif. So Elif here, I underestimated her at R0 because I'm playing Elif R6 instantly, right? Then I overlooked that Elif doesn't really need the consistent pursuit attack from her S1 to make her really strong for early to mid game stages. So I'll actually put Elif either from top picks or useful somewhere here. But if comparing to the one to the Asper we have on them, I would actually put Elif on top pick even at R0, is because as long as you have a buffer who have attack up, crit rate up, or crit damage up, then Elif will cast S3 for free. And this S3 here is actually very pain, especially for early to mid game stage, maybe until a little bit touching the end game as well. Elif does a very massive damage, and not to mention if you have her one copy, then in the future RESO banner, Elif actually get a lot of discount which don't offer. So I'll actually put her at top pick. Then the other one from the don't bother tier, I would actually push Osana to slightly higher. So somewhere I'll push her up to like somewhere niche here, because if you don't really have a very good true damage Asper, or very good high attack Asper for Yinglong for example, because when early to mid game you're gonna touch Yinglong anyway, right? And then if you don't really have a very strong Asper, then Osana here will be a very niche choice for you to actually pick to fight Yinglong. So she's not completely don't bother compared to the other Asper here at R0. But yeah. Then for Slon here, I'll push one tier higher as well, because Slon actually does a lot of damage, right? The reason why I say she needs R2 instead of R0, because R2 gives AoE debuff for your team, while R0 gives AoE freeze for your team, so you freeze your own Asper. So, but if you can make a team like, let's say Clara putting up immunity for your team, then Slon's AoE damage is actually going to be helpful for your early game as well. So I will put ready use, because it really depends on the team comp, but if you make it work, it's going to be very strong for Slon. Okay, then the rest here, the don't bother, I would say they are still the same, nothing much, because they can't really shine at all. And I think pretty much everyone will agree with the don't bother tier, right? If they are at R0, like Everett here, R6 will definitely go push up. Then ready use here, I would say is almost the same, but I'll push Embla a little bit more higher as well, because one thing about Embla is because she does bleed, she does disease as well, and you can do kind of something like Osana as well, like putting bleed on the Yinglong boss. And disease is a very unique debuff for most of the early to mid game stages, because there's like one specific hell mode story stage I remember is the Fabrice one. Every time Fabrice gets hit, then he'll get recovery, so you really need a disease Asper. And one of the few choice that is a DPS Asper with a disease debuff is going to be Embla. So I'll push Embla one tier higher to niche, because if you really need a disease debuff, Embla is one of the few choice that is a high DPS with disease in it. Then for Euron here, I'll push one tier higher as well, because Euron is one of the most consistent sleep Asper with applying assist. And assist is a very rare function in DISLYTE as well. Not many Asper have assist function, sleep, and also control, because Euron can control. Euron have a speed leader buff 35% in Falsetto Fantasy. So if you have one copy of Euron, because once you unlock Falsetto Fantasy, Euron will help you in your Promoter. So I'll push one tier higher as well. Same for Phantom Sister, I'll push one tier higher because of the AoE heal, AoE speed up, AoE mid-straight up, and AP down is actually very good at R0. Then the rest here, I would say I would keep the same. Maybe Valeria can turn up one tier higher, but I will keep the same. Useful tier, I will keep the same. Top picks here, I will put Buyu one tier higher and Iki one tier higher. Because if you make a team that don't make the enemy, the story stage enemy or tower stage enemy to kill Iki or kill Buyu, they can pretty much help you solo the whole content until end game, when you are starting to touch like high tier PvP. Then maybe one copy of them is not enough, but at least at early to mid game, one copy of Wuyu, if you just throw in awful defender, she can pretty much carry you in your whole PvE and PvP content. Then for Iki as well, they just Iki does passive damage, then Wuyu does special turn damage. Then the rest here I'll keep the same, pretty much they does the same, right? Then the new Asper that they have been released since this 6 patch, then I'm going to put them one by one. So Meta Yuntron here at R0, I would say it's pretty rarely used. Like in PvP content or maybe PvE content, you don't really need Meta Yuntron. Like the damage reduction buff is not going to be that good as well. We have a lot more other choice to go. So Meta Yuntron will be at rarely used. Then for B down here, I'll put at niche. Because in your early to mid game until like a little bit of end game, control is very useful, and he works kind of like Hilda but in a petrification way, but a little bit more steps. So I'll put here a niche at R0, or maybe somewhere at useful. But for now, my own perspective, I would say he's at niche instead of useful, because this Asper here are more useful than beat out in that sense. Then Warlock here at R0, I would say is at top peak, because he works kind of like Sachiko. Like Sachiko's effect is at R6, right? So maybe you don't have Sachiko, and maybe you already get Warlock. I don't think you're gonna get Warlock because you need to join the championship unless you buy the Warlock pack. But if you really have Warlock, your requirement for equipment actually lower down a lot, because enemy will reduce their crit resist, so your Asper can easier crit, so you don't really need a lot of crit rate. Then Warlock will give you crit rate up and crit damage up for your Asper as well, especially for Elif. This kind, so if you can pair them together, it's actually a very good combo in your gameplay as well. So I would say Warlock is actually one of the top picks because of the crit resist, because of the crit rate up and crit damage up, and the passive damage boost as well. If you have R0 Warlock, it will definitely help you for the gameplay as well. If you have R2, it's even better because of the CD reduction, but this is a R0 tier list, so I would say it's at top pick. Then for Nathaniel here, I would say it's meta defining, because a lot of players actually using Nathaniel R0 to complete the Chaos Realm. Like Nathaniel is able to one-shot the whole Chaos Realm even at R0, then leave the boss himself alone. Then it will make the gameplay a lot more better. And if you have R0 Nathaniel and R0 Wuyu, it will help you push your PvP content until like, I don't know, somewhere like point war 16. Then you're stuck there until you get higher RESO as well, right? So I would say Nathaniel is meta defining, because in PvE content, not many stages can actually kill Nathaniel other than boss content like Ritual Miracle and Falsetto Fantasy. But other than that, basically any content Nathaniel can one-shot them. So I would say it's meta defining. Then for Yukini here, I would say is at somewhere niche or useful at R0, because the condition for Yukini to trigger at R0 is you have to land the freeze debuff, and to land the freeze debuff, you're gonna need everyone on frost set, and then you need enemy is not on immunity. So I will say it's at niche, because at it's a bit hard to build her if you are still at early to mid game. You don't really have a lot of frost set to make her work. And once the stage is like, if the enemy can't get debuff or can't get control effect, like the Infinity Tower, if there's a buff that makes the enemy cannot get control effect, then basically you're not able to use a Ukrainian team, right? So I'll put her in niche because it's not much used compared to the other Asper, while Nathaniel here can just one-shot most of them. Then for Suizai here at R0 at the early to mid game, I would say it's meta defining. Even though you don't have the R6 effect, like I say, Suizai is a very high investment Asper. Suizai needs R6, but that's in the perspective of top tier PvP. But if we are in the perspective of early to mid game, or maybe you're just reaching the end game, Suizai R0 is actually amazing because he cannot get debuff at all. He cannot get control, even though he can't get your buff, which is fine because he'll give himself 200% speed buff. He can lifesteal by himself. He have 100% counter attack rate without any RESO base. It makes him very strong. Like every enemy takes that one turn, hit Suizai will just counter attack them back, and then he will start healing back. So at R0, I would say he's actually able to help you carry a lot of content until maybe you reach until end game, late game. Then Suizai's lifesteal is not enough to lifesteal for himself. Then he really requires more stats boost. Then maybe high RESO will help him. But at R0, I would say Suizai is actually able to help you carry in a lot of situations. Then for Zhou Hong here, I would say is somewhere at top peak at R0. Yeah, surprisingly, right? Because the reason why I've been saying Zhou Hong is not really that good is because we are testing him as a late game Asper. Like in late game Asper, we have a lot of light set. We have like a lot of immunity Asper. We have like Lu Shang R2. That's more about late game. But in early to mid game, the most of the target Asper, they can get the debuff. They can get the overtime debuff provided by Zhou Hong, which makes Zhou Hong actually very strong in the PvE content and PvP content. As long as you're at the lower tier, that like player doesn't use a lot of light set, doesn't use a lot of cleanse immunity, Zhou Hong will actually do a very good DPS for you. But it won't be good in boss content, but I would say it's still at the top peak. Because overall, he's kind of like Suizai, able to help you carry in a lot of content. He have like his own health HP recovery in his kit as well, something like Artiar, and then he have a lot of max HP reduction debuff to the boss, like the I mean not the boss, like the PvE content, and his damage is pretty high. So I would say it's top pick for R0. Then for the Shima here, Zihe and Mingshuo. Zihe here definitely at meta defining. R0 is all you need to play in PvE and PvP, even until the late game, end game. Zihe R0 is also what she needs to make her work. So if you get one copy of Zihe, she's basically able to help you do a lot of stuff. She have control, she have healing, she have damage share effect as well. It's very strong. So if you really considering to summon a Shima Asper from this 3.4.19, I have no idea if the next patch is going to be have a new Shima or not, but at least for now, I would say Zihe is the best Shima Asper to summon for most of the player. Then for Mingshuo here at R0 is actually one of the top pick as well. In terms of the DPS, it's a very strong AoE DPS, very strong speed leader buff, universal speed leader buff, very strong S2 because he had immune to most of the damage. He'll only die to additional damage like Suje's true damage, all those stuff. That's the reason why I'm not going to put him at meta defining. But if you have Mingshuo R0, but pretty much you already have average R6 as well, which you actually reach like pretty end game. So at that time, if you're at end game, Mingshuo R0 won't help you too much, but I would say in terms of his DPS wise, he's still going to be one of the top pick because he can ignore the enemy defense, do a lot of AoE damage, speed leader buff, and R2 to make him invincibility. Alright, so this is the tier list for 3.4.19 RESO 0 tier list. It is a mixture of PvE and PvP and more focused towards early to mid game and a little bit of end game. But if you're an end game player who have been playing the game for very long, then maybe you have different perspective or this R0, you can feel free to comment down what you guys think about it, right? Because different players have different perspective on different Asper usage. Okay, hope you guys enjoy the tier list and see you guys in the next one. Bye bye. Special thanks for the direct support on the YouTube membership. So for the benefactor of Artiar, which is Yakishiba Tales, Epic Bullet Boy, thank you so much for your support. And for the supporter or patron of Artiar, which is Louis Schneider, Agni, Wang Tamer, Ziggy, Kamaruki, Sunwalks, Rimu, Chani, Antonio Winterspoon, Cragren, Riku Fred X Iris, Calamity, Rocco Stenzions, thank you so much for your support. Special thanks for the direct support on the live stream super chat for the latest tag. Thank you so much for Code Wilderness, Calamity, Agni, Love Fatima, Fatima Little Underwear, Bloods, Riku Fred, Chani. Thank you so much for your support.